Hello and welcome to Firearm Freedom. This is going to be a full review video. In today's full review video, we are going to be taking a look at a variety of magazines from AC Unity. And quickly guys, before we get this video started, as always, if you would like to support the Firearm Freedom channel, I greatly appreciate that, and you can check out all of the links down in the description below. And they will bring you to a bunch of different ways that you can support everything that I do here. And of course, if you wouldn't mind hitting that subscribe button, ringing that bell, and letting me know down in the comment section how you like these videos, that really does defeat the YouTube algorithms that are really holding down gun content here on the platform. Guys, I have been looking at these AC Unity magazines for quite some time. As always, full disclosure, RTG Parts did send out these magazines for review. I've actually been a customer of RTG Parts for quite some time, and honestly, I don't think they get enough love. That website, RTG Parts, to no exaggeration, has some of the best prices I've seen in quite some time on a variety of things that I have a ton of interest in, which is AK variants and roller delayed guns, Uzis, other submachine gun variants, and different things like that. And they are not paying me to say this or anything like that. They sent me these magazines to check out, and there was nothing surrounding those as far as a payment or anything. They just wanted to see how these magazines were doing. I've always bought a ton of stuff from them, so I'm excited to start working with them a little bit more in regards to these AC Unity mags. I started having an interest in the AC Unity mags mainly for their 5.56 AK variation. And the moment that I saw these drop, I got excited. If you're not familiar with 5.56 AK variants, like say an Arsenal 106, which is the 5.56 AK that I have, you might not know that magazines for those guns are incredibly hard to find and also very, very expensive. When we're looking at Arsenal 106 5.56 magazines, you're generally looking at $50+, and the price point isn't even as bad as the availability. Those magazines are incredibly tough to find almost always. And there are some other variations out there of 5.56 AKs, and generally the magazine price and availability is about the same. Not good. Pro Mag was the only option that was really out there that was generally available, and as you could imagine, they really weren't great. I always had some issues with those. So I saw AC Unity drop these magazines. Now, a lot of these black ones I actually bought and got sent to me long before I started working with RTG Parts for the other magazines, but they did actually send me the new clear variation, which is also super cool. I like the clear. However, I am always a little bit skeptical on how durable these translucent mags really are. We're going to get to some of the tests that I did down the road here, and I actually was pretty impressed with how much these were able to withstand and still be just fine. These magazines have been 100% reliable for me in all of the shooting that I've done with them in my Arsenal 106. I've had no feeding problems at all. They have shot great, and you'll notice they are also steel reinforced in all the places they need to be. And the price point is not bad at all, coming in at $13.95 for the 30 rounders and then $14.95 for the translucent. Now, the other cool thing, aside from the price point, is availability. These things are pretty much always in stock at RTG Parts. That is a huge win for 5.56 AKs. I can't tell you how many times I was sitting there and people would say, man, a 5.56 AK would be cool, but mags are super tough to find, so therefore I don't really want one. So this kind of gives you an option that's pretty awesome. Now, generally speaking, all of the AK variation AC Unity mags are going to ship with 2 followers. Sometimes it's just one. It will specify in the description. In this case, the follower that's in here is the last round bolt hold open follower. A lot of them will ship with that, and then also a non-last round bolt hold open follower. So it's just the standard. I'm one of those people that always prefers a non-bolt hold open follower. It's one of those things that's just kind of a training habit that I got used to not having it. And of course, when I do have it, it almost subconsciously makes me feel like I have a malfunction in my AK. But if you're somebody that wants it, they have them in there. So that's not too bad. Again, the translucent mags were also just as reliable as the black, and then the black does have a window so you can see the rounds loaded and different things like that. Along with the 5.56 AK mags, of course, AC Unity also makes 5.45 by 39 mags. They actually have a 30 rounder and also a 45 round long boy right there. So that can't be beat really if you're looking to get a little bit higher than standard capacity, which is 30. It's going to give you 15 extra rounds, which is not too bad. Now, of course, this is going to stick out pretty damn far, but if you have any sort of an RPK variation in 5.45, that's going to be a pretty sweet setup, and it is going to be reliable, whereas a lot of drums out there, depending on the manufacturer of 5.45 drums, not only are they going to be hard to find, but a lot of the time reliability is so-so. So getting something that's going to be reliable, like this AC Unity mag, not bad at all. Actually, again, like the 5.56 mags, bought a lot of these 5.45 mags before I started working with RTG, and I have never had an issue in my Polish Tantle. I've also had a few buddies of mine that have other 5.45 variations that have told me they have also bought these and have run them in their 5.45 guns without issue at all. So again, big plus here. As far as price point, the 45 rounder with the window goes for $14.95 and the 30 rounder goes for $13.95. I'm telling you guys the price point on all these mags because the other huge plus here is the fact that it is super affordable. So these mags, you know, when you're comparing them to magazines, especially AK variant magazines that are either hard to find or $50+, it is pretty awesome to see numbers like $12, $13 or below as we're going to get into the other mags here. Now, of course, with recent Russian ammo problems, I didn't do quite as much testing on the 5.45 magazines in this particular range footage that you guys are going to see. I just didn't want to blow through a lot of my 5.45 storage. But with that being said, all of the shooting that I did before this range day, I had absolutely no issues with these mags. The only things I kind of noticed, and you'll be able to see a little bit there, there's just some cracks here or there in the window. I can't like push the material in, and I'm pushing pretty hard and I got nothing. It's just mainly from dropping the magazine and it hitting little pebbles and rocks and stuff at the range. Dropped these mags quite a bit, so I'm not concerned about that at all, but it is worth noting. Getting into the majority of the testing that I did in this particular range day that you guys are going to be seeing a lot of, as you can see here, we beat the living crap out of these magazines, and ultimately we were very impressed. I did get a chance to try out these AC Unity AR-15 magazines. Now, I did have just some complaints about these mags. I actually had the chance to not only test them in this range day, but to also run them at a suppressor shoot that we were having at the gun shop that I work at. What that entails is simply running them in AR-15 variants all day long, suppressed, and we were only loading 3 rounds at a time. Now, unfortunately, because of the situation, I wasn't able to get that on film, but we did start experiencing some random issues with these AR-15 pattern magazines. Now, the issues actually weren't terrible, and I think it is a relatively quick fix for AC Unity, so hopefully this information will be able to help them out. The issues, in my opinion, all come down to the follower. Now, you guys are going to see a little bit in back roll. I was able to replicate this problem with my 10.5 SBR that was running suppressed at the range, and that problem was not holding open on the last round fired. For whatever reason, it seems that these followers don't do a great job in actually locking the bolt to the rear. You'll notice a few times I'm trying to rack it over and over and over again, and no matter how hard I pull it back, what was happening is the bolt, the actual teeth of the bolt, were catching on the back of the follower and then driving the follower down. And it also seems that these followers don't have the best anti-tilt capability to them. It seems that it's relatively easy to tilt the follower down. Now, as far as reliability when the rounds are loaded and you're shooting through the string of fire, I had no issues. So it fed reliably, and I did not experience any issues that I could replicate on camera for feeding problems whatsoever. The other concern that I had was durability of these translucent mags. So I'm not gonna lie, the moment that RTG sent me these translucent mags, I said they look really cool, but I am always incredibly skeptical with how much these translucent mags can actually take without cracking and other things like that. So we put them to the test. I started off with dropping these magazines from relatively high heights, just standard, probably about head distance to the ground, and it was on a gravel flat range. And then I started throwing them up into the air, so they hit heights of probably about 20-25 feet, falling all the way down right on the gravel, and again, no problems. I would pick them up, shoot them in the gun, and the only issues I kept experiencing were the followers that wanted to not hold open. We then stepped it up a notch to what I consider is still a realistic test, which is the of leaving your magazine maybe falling out the back of your car or something like that, and then running them over on the range. That's probably worst case scenario. And we got in my good buddy Keith's Toyota and decided to put these under the tire, and they are relatively big tires. They did have the proper amount of air, so it wasn't like they were given any sort of a break. And I did this test loaded with 30 rounds and unloaded to see how much these could take. And I was amazed to see that they held up 100%. There was actually no issue at all. And of course, me and Keith actually tried to break them because we just thought they were going to implode under the tire. And he actually stopped the car on top of the mag for a good 4 count, and still holding the whole weight of that side of the car and tire, it had no issue. Unloaded, which again, I thought that was pretty impressive. I think if AC Unity just messed with the follower a little bit, they would have a winner on their hands with these mags. Now, the translucent mags are not too terrible. They're around $12.95. So because of that issue with the follower compared to say like Magpul Gen 2 mags, they're around the same price. It is a tough comparison. I would probably still go for the Magpul mags, keep these for range mags or whatever. But if they get this follower problem solved, I think they're going to have a huge winner on their hands. Now, on top of that, the black AC Unity AR mags are only $9.95. So that really isn't too bad. Even with the follower problem that may or may not be there in the black ones, I only have these translucent ones to try out. Now, of course, the AC Unity mags also are available in 7.62 by 39. The price point on these magazines is phenomenal, coming in on 30 rounders as low as $7.95 and the 40 rounders as low as $8.95. And guys, no issues at all here. These fit in a variety of my AKs. They all fit just fine. And of course, reliability was excellent. These came with followers that have the last round bolt hold open or standard followers, which is awesome. And as you could imagine, and as you can see here by how messed up these mags are, we were throwing them around the range. We were running them over with the car, doing the same test as the AR mags, and they held up without issue. There was absolutely no cracking in the window, even being run over, and there was no strength issues at all, loaded or unloaded. And of course, they also ran reliably in the gun. So at that price point, I was pretty blown away with these mags. And honestly, it's probably going to be a pretty bold statement, but I would have no issues loading these up and keeping them in like a home defense roll or an SHTF roll or anything like that. I think they did a great job. And of course, as you would imagine, they are steel reinforced in all the areas that it matters. And when you're considering the steel reinforcement and considering, say, how much like a Magpul magazine that's steel reinforced goes for, or like a US Palm mag that's steel reinforced, those are generally north of like $25. These are like $8. So when you're looking at that, it's really, really tough to beat. I dig these quite a bit. I get pretty excited about these AC Unity mags because they are doing something that's cool for the market. And I should also mention all these magazines, I believe, are coming out of Bosnia. I could be wrong on that, so correct me if I am wrong down in the comment section, but they are foreign-made mags, so you would imagine that most of the time in countries that may have run AK variants throughout their history, they're going to probably do AK mags pretty well. Now, when it comes to other mags, you know, they are going to probably have some learning curves there potentially, but it is not too difficult to fix those problems like, you know, the follower in the AR mags and other things. But the AK mags have been, again, flawless. So I was really impressed with these. Finally here, I got to take a look at the AC Unity MP5 mags. Now, at first, I had a little bit of a frustrating range day with these mags, but it was not at the fault of the magazines. You guys know that I have a PTR 9CT that is SBR'd. It's just a full-size MP5 clone. I have had problems with that thing for so long, it's not even funny. And a lot of you ask, like, hey man, you know, what's the update with the PTR and different things like that? Well, unfortunately, it's still not running right. And we had this thing at the range with these mags. It was 115 grain brass ammo. Generally, that gun likes 124, so that could have been the issue too. But the mags were incredibly tight in that gun, and for whatever reason, after the warranty repair, I believe they tried to tighten up the mag well, so even like steel mags fit pretty tight. That is one thing that I noticed, is that we were really trying to get these magazines up in the mag well in that PTR, and they were running, but I would always have some issues more towards the bottom of the magazine. To cut out the PTR variable entirely, I actually got a chance to shoot a good friend of mine's SP5K. Thank you so much, Sam, for that. I really appreciate you letting me flex on the pores at the range there for a little bit. And in the SP5K, with, again, standard 115 grain brass ammo, it functioned flawlessly. The mags were a lot less tight in the mag well, no issues at all there, and again, no reliability problems whatsoever. We then continued to do durability testing, dropping and throwing the mags around the range, and again, no problems. And then we also ran over the magazines, loaded and unloaded, and still they held up just fine. No breaking at the seams, no crushing, no cracking, nothing. They did a great job. And I really think these magazines are not too bad at all. The price point's a little bit higher on these mags. You're looking at $22.95 for the 30 rounders, and then they also make the 40 rounder here, which comes in at $24.95. When you're comparing those price points to the nasty price point of an HK German metal magazine coming in at north of $80, it's not too terribly bad. Of course, these are polymer, and with certain MP5s, as you're seeing with the PTR there, the mag well can be a little bit different. So you might want to test one of them first, see how tight it is in the gun before you buy a whole bunch. But it seems that these mags really aren't too bad at all. I also had these magazines loaded for a few weeks, and again, no problems at all there with the feed lips or anything like that. So I think these are also a win. Unfortunately, I just have a relatively problematic MP5 variation on my hands. And overall, guys, that is going to wrap up this review on these AC Unity mags. You guys are probably going to be seeing a few more AC Unity products drop on the channel for review. Aside from the options that you see on the table, they actually do have other options available. If you guys have any questions about these magazines or anything else on the channel, please feel free to hit me up down below in the comment section, and I absolutely will get back to you. Thank you guys so much for watching, and stay tuned for more great videos to come soon.